Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Rates and Lanes podcast. We are riding once again. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad. That fellow next to me, that's Mr. Chuck Snow. And this week, man, we got a lot of developments that have taken place since the last time that we spoke. Very interesting times that we live in. Indeed, I guess you could call this the kind of the benchmark for the post-Montgomery world. But before we do that, before we jump into that real quickly, we'll circle right back. I want to just do a little housekeeping just to remind everyone, if you would, please like, share, and subscribe to the show. Leave us a comment. It helps us get into a broader algorithm for YouTube and all of the other social media platforms. Helps other people find the show, and it would do us a huge, huge service. It doesn't cost you a dime, but it helps us out tremendously. So if you could please do that for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Now, circling back around to the C.H. Robinson, that's what I was alluding to as we were starting to come in.
Yeah.
C.H. Robinson got hit with a $604 million verdict, at which, from what I understand, they were only cited to be 23% at fault.
Right. Yeah.
But the carrier that was involved in the case, from what I understand, I think they're gone. I think they're pretty much defunct. And so unfortunately, C.H. Robinson gets to absorb all of that. From what I understand, they have to absorb.
Even if they're not defunct, how it works is because they couldn't, most carriers have what, $2 or $3, maybe $5 million coverage.
Right.
There's no way, even the big ones, if they were to have this land on their desk, they would oppose it vigorously. The same thing, and it's so much money, and it honestly doesn't make sense.
So, just a couple of things on this, and we'll get into this week's rates and lanes information, but. This is not just a C.H. Robinson story. It's a broker liability story.
Yeah.
So just to kind of give out the actual facts, the Dallas County jury issued a $604 million advisory verdict against C.H. Robinson motor carrier Lupus Superior and the driver tied to a 2021 crash that killed 3 people and injured 2 others. C.H. Robinson says it disagrees with the verdict and expects to appeal if it becomes final. So a lot of the things that I'm noticing now, especially since the Montgomery, when I'm on the phone talking with brokers and everything, and of course they always ask you what's your MC number and everything, because they're doing, they're pulling their due diligence. They're doing their thing in the background. But then I can hear them, okay, once they pull me up, if we don't already have a relationship, once they pull me up and they look at my, they look at my credentials and everything, they say, "Oh man, I like this MC. I like how because I don't have any blemishes on my record. Knock on wood.
It's not done it for you, buddy."
So I don't necessarily have any blemishes on my record. So that's always something that goes in my favor. And that also when that's one of the things that I also use to my advantage when I'm negotiating as well. Hey. Because I understand the times in which we're living in. So always that's if you got your DOT number and your MC number are in good shape, in good standings, that's always another feather in your cap when it comes to negotiating. But staying on the as far as this whole C.H. Robinson deal, and the verdict puts broker carrier selection practices directly under the microscope, which is kind of everything that came down with the Montgomery ruling and everything anyway. So what are your takeaways from all of this, just from a 60,000 foot viewpoint?
You know what? I honestly believe that there are some lawyers out there and that push for this because it creates a very healthy environment for the legal profession, who is under fire right now because of AI. So they're worried about not having enough work. They're creating jobs, and those billboards that infuriate all of us you driving down the road and you get infuriated seeing 1-800 sue a trucker. It's going to make them even hungrier, and it's going to put more of those billboards out because this is open season on truckers and brokers. That's what this is.
It puts and I want to connect a couple of dots
Okay.
before we get too far down the road on this as well, because before we talk about money, anything else, we have to kind of always remember that the reaction was so strong with the verdict that comes down because we're talking about the loss of lives. And whenever you got juries and that are involved and you have some very crafty attorneys that know their job really well and can pull on the emotional, and that's I think that's where you get these large nuclear verdicts from, because a lot of emotion. It's an emotionally charged situation because you know it, it's easily to kind of put yourself in that situation and say, imagine if that was your family member. Imagine if that was someone in your
Exactly.
family.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, imagine, you can just hear it. You can, we've all seen the movies, and that's what it's like. And they got now. This is going to go to another court. That's my understanding. This is going to be going to another court,
Right.
and the little bit I do know about C.H. Robinson is that they will fight this to the bitter end, because first of all, they fought if you remember that last one many, many years ago that we all talked about, and I think it was $52 million that they opposed.
This is
And
pocket change compared to that. I mean, that's
yeah,
pocket change compared to this
yeah,
one.
cut them a check out of petty cash, those guys. But compared to this one, so they're going to have to, and they have to oppose it, even if they have to oppose it or appeal it, because it sets such a bad precedent for the entire industry. Like,
Well,
when is enough enough? Like, we have to we have to move freight from point A to point B, and there are times when a truck driver might not be on his or her game. There may be extenuating circumstances we don't know that weren't caught on a dash cam.
well, a couple of more things want to add on this one as well. The underlying crash involved a Lupus Superior tractor trailer hitting stop traffic on Interstate 20 in Mississippi in 2021, causing a fiery 6 vehicle pileup. 3 people died and 2 others were injured. So that's, like I said, like I was saying earlier, that's the whole thing about playing on people's emotions and everything, because that's a very real reality. And I want to tie that to real quickly. We talked a couple of maybe a few weeks back when we were talking about the social media guys on all over social media talking about running with the Russians and this, that, and the third. And people are out here broadcasting how they are able to manipulate law books, so on and so forth, doing all of the illegal running that they're doing, and under the guise of, well, I'm making money. And listen, I don't begrudge anybody for earning a living. However, there are limits to which that is being agreed. Some of the stuff that I have seen on social media with these guys with being able to reset law books and stuff, and talking about how many miles they ran in one day, and over 6,000 miles in 1 week. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
And this is the situation where you have people that are not thinking about long term down the road as far as what kind of repercussions that type of attitude and that type of behavior is going to produce.
Yeah.
Yeah, and following up, as far as the verdict is concerned as well, the verdict is an advisory, not final yet. So this is important. The reported verdict is an advisory verdict and remains subject to post-trial proceedings before a final judgment is entered. C.H. Robinson has stated that it will appeal the verdict uh, before it becomes final. So the timing of this matters because, like we were saying earlier, this comes on the heel of Supreme Court Montgomery ruling. Earlier this year, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed negligent hire claims against freight brokers to proceed under state law, rejecting the argument that federal law automatically shields brokers from the claims. The court said that the claims could fall under the safety exception of the federal preemption. So this is why this is one of the reasons why brokers were kind of upset about the whole Montgomery ruling and verdict.
Well, yeah, it's there's as a broker, there's some things you can control. There's other things you can't. And somebody, you as a broker, you hire a truck and and we've had trucking companies that we worked with hand in hand, and the drivers had a crash. And it happens because icy conditions, whatever. It happens. I've had guys in my own fleet many years ago. I had a guy fall asleep at the wheel. Luckily, nothing happened to him. He was banged up a little bit, and he rode off a K100 Kenworth. But wasn't catastrophic. You're going to have crashes. We all know that. There's a predictability. If I forget what the numbers are, but every so many miles, for the big carriers, it's so many millions of miles, they can expect a fatality. It's just numbers, and it's not. It's a fact of life. Everybody does their best to avoid crashes. You do what you can to make sure your truck is safe, that you are safe, your driver, everybody's safe, but sometimes things do happen.
So this is going to be at the head of this all. Carrier vetting is now more than just a front. There's more than a dispatch issue. You got to make sure that carrier vetting, as far as the brokers are concerned, because the allegation is that C.H. Robinson hired a carrier with a problematic safety record.
Well, you know what? That's why they're partially at fault, because they never ever. A good broker, why were they hiring somebody like that in the first place?
Yeah, reporting says the case focused on whether Robinson should have been better vetted lupus superior before tendering the load to them. So, like I said, at the heart of this, a satisfactory safety rating may not be enough. C.H. Robinson's position, according to reporting, it includes that the motor carrier had a satisfactory safety rating, but the jury still found fault. So you got to make sure that you're doing a little bit more. You got to go dig a little bit deeper other than just looking at FMCSAs. And I know that's a real point of contention with brokers, because they're like, well, if the FMCSA can't tell us who's a good carrier, how are we supposed to?
That's an issue. That's a huge issue. And I'm sure Sean Duffy and the crew there are going to fix this. And my understanding is, and I could be wrong, my understanding is that they are going forward with the desktop audits, and they're using a consulting company. I'm waiting for this to hear more about this happening.
And so one of the key takeaways from all of this as well is that small carriers may feel this directly, or smaller carriers. This could push brokers to tighten onboarding. Smaller carriers may be faced with requests for safety scores, inspection histories, crash histories, driver qualification processes, insurance limits, written safety policies, internal compliance procedures. These are all things that brokers may start to request as a prerequisite to being onboarded and running loads with them.
Well, on that, I think that if a broker's not doing that, then I think as a carrier, you better wonder who you're doing business with.
And as also as an offshoot, larger carriers, and I think that some of this is taking place because I've been hearing a lot of this on some of the different freight outlets that, especially J.B. Hunt just reported how they beat the market record profits and everything because of kind of a windfall of extra capacity coming their direction as a result of the Montgomery ruling.
Okay, you know what? Let's for a sec. Let's just talk about J.B. Hunt. when JB Hunt came into the market, into the Canadian market, which is 35 years ago, they were a horrible, horrible competitor for the fact that their rates were so cheap. All the jokes we used to hear about them, well, they were true because they used to have. I think at one point they were about 140% turnover. There was a team of drivers that would fly all over North America to pick up abandoned trucks because drivers were getting home once a year. It was just pardon my language on the air, it was a shit show.
Yeah.
And through the years, JB Hunt has fixed this. And I heard an ad the other day on Sirius XM, JB Hunt looking for drivers, paying Walmart wages now.
Yes.
Okay, so JB Hunt has fixed their problems. They're not running open board. They haven't done that for years. It's basically contract freight, either one way or both ways, or contract one way for one customer, contract the other way. They've got it down to a science, and they're a much better carrier than they used to be.
So yeah, so some practical takeaways, and we'll get into our normal proceedings on. We kind of put a bow on this C.H. Robinson situation. I got some key points for what small carriers should do now, what brokers are likely to do. And so starting out with what small carriers should do now is keep safety documents organized. Make sure that you got everything, got your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Make sure that your insurance authority and compliance records are clean, or as clean as you can possibly keep them. Track inspections, violations, corrective actions, and maintenance. You got to make sure that all of that stuff is put together. Build a simple safety packet for broker onboarding. So, you can kind of put some stuff together in a
zip file or whatever.
Yes, put it in a file with something easily that if something is requested, you got something that you might be able to potentially be able to send over. Do not wait until a broker asks for proof. You need to kind of have, like I say, have this stuff organized and ready to roll. Some of the things that brokers are likely to do is tighten carrier onboarding, like we just talked about earlier. Use more third-party carrier monitoring tools, which yes. I experienced this week. Not only did the broker I have to go through highway to set up, but they also have something on 10th Street where I had to take a selfie of myself, scan a picture of my driver's license, and all this kind of ties hand in hand, not only with the onboarding process, but also as a fraud preventative measure that the brokers are trying to get their hands around. So another thing that brokers are doing outside of that with the third party is avoid carriers with unresolved safety alerts. Require more documentation before tendering loads, and potentially favor larger or longer tenured carriers. These are some of the countermeasures that you may start to begin to see when you're out here negotiating with brokers now. These are all some of the things that I think that might be coming down the pipe.
Well, they are, because I think any of the good brokers they're tightening up everything. They already have, or they are. The I shouldn't say bad. The weaker transactional brokers, they'll let a dog take a load. They don't care. Their businesses aren't that big, and if something messes up, they'll close up and try to start up again or go into something else.
Yeah, that's what they was kind of jokingly saying. We might start having chameleon brokers now.
Well, yeah, we've had them before. They weren't as numerous as the carriers. That's all, Rico.
Yeah. So this verdict is a warning shot in 2026 that carrier selection is no longer just about who can cover the load. It's whether or not the broker can defend that carrier that they chose. So
bingo.
Have to make sure that we're keeping those things in mind. Now,
that brings up one other good point. No matter what you do, sometimes people will do things that they shouldn't do. Can you defend it? Right. That's the big question, Rico.
Right. So we were talking a little bit earlier, Chuck. We was talking about fuel prices, and the graph is starting
down there.
The graph is taking that turn. It's back up.
Yeah.
We're going back up. So diesel fuel price is showing that an average of $4.79 per gallon on average in the United States. That is up 21 cents over the past week.
Whew.
Yep, diesel reversed higher after 3 weeks of relief. Maintain fuel surcharge discipline and price on deadheads.
Wow. You know, in Canada right now, the diesel fuel is going, I believe, around 215 a liter, and there's 4 liters, 3.8 liters to the U.S. gallon.
Yeah,
So,
it's you feeling that one.
yeah, you're darn right.
This week we are on dry vans. Now remember, the rate that you are seeing does
Yep.
not include the fuel surcharge, so your mileage may vary potentially wherever you are. But the average for dry vans this week nationally is showing at $2.44 per mile on average. We are past the seasonal peak. We are down by 6 cents week over week. We are up 48% year over year as far as
Wow.
the rate is concerned. So the 48%, just imagine
That's huge.
that's significant. Uh, and we are seeing an average load to truck ratio for dry vans sitting at 10 loads to truck. Bellwether markets they are around $2.93 per mile on average. That is only 12 cents lower than the previous week. So dry vans still looking, and with everything considered, still pretty strong.
Resilient. Yeah.
Yes, pretty strong. Moving over into the flatbed portion, we are showing that the average rate per mile for flatbeds is at $2.95 per mile. Again, this is without the fuel surcharge, so your mileage may vary. That's still above the 2021 record. We are down 5 cents week over week. We are still up 44% year over year. So just that we're seeing a trend here, both
Yep.
with dry
Definitely.
vans and with flatbeds, over 40% from last year as far as the rates are concerned.
Yep.
Load to truck ratios is sitting at 44 loads to truck.
Whoa.
Industrial corridor, you're seeing a higher average per mile at $3.50 per mile. That is down by 10 cents per mile week over week. Capacity rebounded 8%, and price activity active construction lanes not projected. So you have to you make sure that you are, if you're running your lanes, you have a better indication on where you fall within those averages. And going over to the temperature control reefer portion of the report, we're showing that reefers are showing an average of $2.80 per mile nationwide. Once again, that's without the fuel surcharge included in that rate. This is the post July 4th cool down. So we are showing 3 cents week over week that we are down. We are still above 43% year over year for reefers. So all three segments are up above 40% year over year when it comes to the rate, which is a very welcome change because Lord have mercy.
Yeah. And, you know, the reefers are needed regionally because there's produce growing everywhere right now. It's July.
Right.
Um, so things are pretty good there, except the only place things aren't growing, I think, is in Florida.
You still got a little bit going on in upper the northern part of Florida, the central and southern Florida. It is absolute ghost
Dismal.
town. And I can tell you for a fact because a couple of weeks back I took a load down there and I took belt to ass coming out of there. So
It's been like that for, you know what? It's been like that for decades.
yes.
Oh,
So and also so we're showing that the load to truck ratio is sitting at almost 20 loads per truck.
wow.
Produce hubs, you're seeing a much higher rate per mile. You're seeing above $4 a mile. That is up 6 cents per mile from last week. California and Yakima shifted to slight truck shortages. Northeast bound produce lanes gained more leverage.
Okay.
And so, for a complete overview, of the market. All three segments experienced a slight decline. We're still showing very strong load to truck ratios across the board for all three modes of transportation. Capacity is returning and national rate moves lower, but every segment remains at least 43% above last year's rate. So that's always a positive takeaway. We are way ahead of where we were. We're not quite, we may not be where we want to be, but we definitely are much better than what we were this time last year.
Well, you know what? Most of the carriers have an awful lot of red ink they've got to carry. You know, they got to bury and cover with black ink, and it's going to take several months of this.
Absolutely, no. It's going. We need years. We
Yeah.
we need years. But to tie, like I say, to tie everything together, it's going to be. This is with the post Montgomery world and all the stuff that's coming down. I think that there definitely seems to be a significant shift that's taking place. When I talking about, you start to see more. July has been slow as far as volume is concerned, at least where I am operating at, in my operating area. It's been better. Past few weeks it was much better, but it is moving really. These past few weeks it's been really slow. As far as, I'm not getting as much traction when I have my truck posted. I'm having to do a little bit more calling on those. Whereas before, before July rolled around, I just had to post the truck and I couldn't hang the phone up from brokers calling. Now just, I think volume's down just a little bit. I was talking with one of my brokers that I do have done a lot of business with. Just kind of touching base, working with the relationship, asking them, letting them know that I had capacity available, and he just flat out told me, he said, "Man, it's really super slow right now. Once a couple of weeks, we'll get back to normal capacity."
You know what? I think he's right, because historically, you get into July, and that first week of July, I know the automotive industry shuts down. And then other industries take their holidays. They shut down in July. They retool. Usually by the end of the month, they start popping up again. Everybody is retooled. They're vigorized. They're revigored. They're ready to go. They want to get back to business.
Yeah, and like you say, everybody's taking vacation time, so everybody's getting them in before back to school. Back to school start going to be with. I think some schools are starting back maybe next week or so. So you're gonna, all that's going. So you gotta. That's automatically across the board. You're going to have more food moving because you got school lunches, so on and so forth.
Oh no, listen, it adds up, and the young kids aren't on Ozempic, so they eat more. I was talking to my son, and he was at a conference, a broker conference last week, and he said, you could visibly notice in the room how much thinner people are this year than last year.
I tell you what, it's definitely having an effect. That's definitely a movement of its own going on.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And food consumption is down, I think, around 3% over this. It's unbelievable what a difference things, and that's got an effect on things too. 3% doesn't sound like much, but it's a hell of a lot.
Well, I'll be in full transparency, Chuck. I started on a GLP-1 a couple of weeks back, and I definitely feel the effects.
Yeah, apparently, it works. We both know somebody that did very well. He got a new knee or something, and the doctor said, I think you should take Ozempic because your knee, the operation will heal much quicker, and it did.
Yeah.
So there's something to this. They may have found the fountain of youth.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but it definitely you definitely feel the effects of it. I'm on one, and my food consumption has went down.
Yeah, so it does work, but it has an effect, and we're
Yeah,
seeing the effect. We can't have
yeah,
it both ways, and we don't want to. There's a big push not to bring any more immigrants in the country, and as far as Canada, most of the good ones don't want to come into my country, so they still want to go to your country.
yeah. So it's definitely interesting times. Um, just I think that, like I say, we gonna be coming up on things should be starting to pick back up within the next couple of weeks as we get ready to go into August.
Oh yeah,
Schools getting ready to go back into session, so you're gonna have, of course, you got that coming. So they got the build up for that already in place, but that automatically kind of creates a little bit more of a consumerism with people getting back to, kind of getting ready for fall, so on and so forth. And so, and of course, the next big push is now you're going to start pushing. You got to start getting prepared and ready for the holidays coming up. So
yeah. It's all seasonal, and you get your ebbs and flows. And I think sometimes people, all of a sudden, it slows down a little bit, and everybody gets worried. I wouldn't worry yet. I think we've got a ways to go before we have to get concerned about anything. I think that
yeah,
everyone.
I still think that definitely with the enforcement crackdowns, I think we still have a lot more road to go as far as um, the rates are concerned. I think we're going to be still maintaining pretty decent rates. I don't think that we're going to be going. I don't think we're going to be losing this 43% increase that we seen from last year.
No, no,
No
but
time.
no, but you know what? I think the feds have finally figured out that there's a correlation between enforcement and a healthy trucking industry.
Yes.
And I think this is the first time since deregulation they finally understood that if they're going to enforce safety. Years and years ago, they used to enforce, did you have the rights to be in that state? Now it's going to be, are your tires legal? Are your brakes legal? Is your front end put together properly, or are you missing some parts there? Et cetera, et cetera. And the one thing I just want to warn everybody, since we're all under this giant microscope for safety, for God's sakes, don't forget to look good out there. Make sure your equipment is clean. You don't have to buy a bunch of chrome; it's a waste of money. And it's more things to clean. But just keep your truck and trailer clean, and you need to look clean. When you
Right.
get stopped, when you get stopped at that scale house and they pull you in for an inspection, you want to look good. It's just so I've gotten in arguments with people. I've talked about it on the air before, but it's just a reminder. Look good, have your paperwork in order. You've got to look professional. You're dealing with a person in a uniform. And if you're not in one, he's starting to look at you already.
Well, that's one of the things that I definitely get a lot of as well, because people see as you. I'm wearing my work shirt right now. I have one of my work shirts on right now. So as
Yeah.
you can see, I have I got my company logo, and it's got the reflective. So because a lot of places now you have to have on a vest and so on and so
Yes.
forth. I'd rather spend the money on this type of shirt to where I don't have to really necessarily go out and buy a vest to put
Yeah,
on
I
because
agree.
this will suffice. Looks a little bit better in my opinion. But then, but I was saying that to say, I can't tell you the amount of places that I go to. When I go in, I'm dressed the way that I am with the polo shirt on, pants, boots, and they like, man, I just can't tell you how many times we drivers come in here and they're either got on shorts, tank tops, and flip flops. Yeah, and I get it. I understand that you want to be comfortable when you're driving, but when you're out and you're making that public perception, you only get one opportunity to make that first impression. And when you presenting it, the way that you present yourself sometimes will help make or break whether or not how people treat you.
100%. And you know what? Prepare when you start in the morning. Prepare for a fact that you could have an interaction with somebody. You don't know. It happens in a heartbeat. A
Absolutely.
cop just a cop or DOT officer pulls you over at the side of the road just for a random inspection. Maybe he likes your truck. Maybe he hates your truck. Who
Right.
knows? Maybe you're based out of Georgia. Maybe he had a girlfriend in Georgia, broke his heart, and he's
You never know.
you don't know what sets somebody off. Maybe a truck of the same make and color cut him off last week, and he thought maybe that was you. Who knows? But be prepared. Just like your paperwork, doing your pre-trip, all that has to be done. I've seen it so often with carriers where they get into trouble, but 99.9% of the time they cause the trouble themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys and girls, we're going to leave it there for this week. We hope that we were able to share some information with you that you found valuable and you got something from it. If you would, please, once again, make sure you like, share, comment. It helps us out tremendously. We need all the help we can get to try to get the broadcast out to a larger audience. And so, with that being said, we're going to get ready to go ahead and back her into a hole, as Chuck likes to say, uh, for another week. We want you guys to continue to stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. Oh, well, let me hold up, Chuck. Tell the good folks how they can get in contact with you if they got any questions.
Yeah, if they need me for anything, please send me an email to chucksnow280@outlook.com. Put your phone number on it. If I can help any of our listeners with anything, I'll be there for you. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her in a hole for another week.
Well, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe out there, stay healthy, stay profitable, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. And God willing, we'll talk at you guys same time, same place next week. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip flop. God bless.